The river that remembered? They say the river remembers. Before the first barangay was built and before the name of the island was fixed by cartographers and strangers, there was only a great river that cut the land like a silver seam. The people who lived along its banks called themselves children of the water and told 1,000 small tales to keep the river from forgetting them. In a season when the rains changed their minds, sometimes every dawn they wept. Sometimes they slept for many moons. The river found itself thin and nervous. Fish had grown few. The pandan swamps were quiet. A grandmother who braided shells into necklaces knelt on the bank and whispered an old pleading to the river. "Feed us, give us enough for the children's mouths, and a planting of rice." The river answered in the shape of a woman. She rose without a splash, wet hair wound with mangrove vines, eyes the color of deep pools. Her name was Dewata Ilathis. The people insisted, though others called her Inang Ilag, or simply the lamp of the river. Wherever she stepped, new shoots of salliot and gabi sprouted. She wove water into rice and gave fishermen hands that knew exactly when the fish would run. Not all who saw her loved her. A young man, Anokbold, hungry and proud of his quick blade, wanted to make his fortune. He thought the river's magic would be a jewel to sell. He crept to the water one moonless night with a net crafted of iron links and a shoutless plan. But the river remembered every footfall of the ancestors who'd walked her banks, and she remembered how men had taken without saying thanks. When Anok cast his iron net, the river did not snarl, but instead offered him a choice. 100 fish, shimmering like coins, would feel his catch if he promised to carry a single unseen thing back across 3 hills and leave it where the land was poor and bare. Lazy promises were not kept in that time, so Anok, thinking only of the fish, agreed without hearing the thing's name. The river's hand long-fingered, cool laid something into Anok's palms. It was warm as a newborn and smelled like rice husk in shadow. He wrapped it and ran. He crossed 3 hills and, when the sun stood stubbornly high, he set the bundle down among a scatter of stones where the ground had been stolen by thieves and drow. At night the bundle uncurled. From it rose a child with hair like dark river reeds and a laugh that was water. The child ran, and where her bare feet touched the soil, grass stood in salute and a spring welled up. The people of that poor place named her Talistar of the Spring's End. She taught them to read the dance of rain on the earth. The river, having kept its bargain, sank back into a calm whisper, and the people prospered. Anak, having tasted the quick spoil of his greed, found nothing to ease the rot in his hands. The iron net grew heavy until he could not lift it, and iron is poor company for the soul. He humbled himself and learned, slowly, to plant and mend what he had broken. The river watched and forgave in the way water forgives. By continuing, years slid like small fish. One spring, traders arrived sailing after a strange storm that had left shells strung like beads upon their masts. Among them were the Mangyan of the older hills, people with woven tattoos whose songs braided in voices like birds. They told of sky women whose laughter could bend the wind. From far islands came Teles, 2 of a Tengalite, guardian of the mountain, and of an old grandmother spirit who knitted the clouds. But the most dangerous came with shadows that were not quite shadow. In the tall Kagun grass, the creatures known as the Tikbalung liked to play at being men and stallions, an odd mix of long legs and human trickery that led travelers astray for the joy of mischief. The elders said the Tikbalung were children of the first crossroads, born when the road could not decide if it wanted to go east or west. They loved riddles and asking favors in exchange for returning a lost shadow. When a child of the barangay vanished one festival night, her laughter heard last by a lamppost, and then nothing people suspected the men took spears, priests walked with candles, and the river's face grew narrow as a blade. Dewata Ila told them, in a voice like water through shells, that some things are returned by remembering them. Names, songs, the way you used to call someone before they became a fear. They sat by the river for 3 nights and set songs loose into her current songs of the child's first cry, songs of her favorite mango tree, songs of the great-grandmother's lullaby. On the 3rd dawn, the girl washed up on the bank, mud in her hair, and her eyes full of a place she could not name. She remembered being led through grass that ringed like bells, and a horse that had walked on 2 legs, and told stories from the first turning of the world. They offered the Tikbalang a bargain. Leave the child, and in return the people would hold a small market at the crossroads once a year. Lay out fruits and dance for the beasts of the road, so they might remember the sweetness of humans as well as their appetite for mischief. The Tikbalang, who loved a bargain and a bow to their ego, consented. So they were honored not as servants but as neighbors, and travelers' paths became a little safer. Sometimes the darkness in a story is rooted in sorrow, not malice. In a village beneath the balit tree lived an old midwife called Lola Guinobatan, who plaited stories like she told of a creature who hollowed out people's laughter and kept it for a jar of moonlight in, a swung who fed on fear and loneliness. As the years moved, more and more windows were shuttered at dusk, doors were bolted, and a hush lay like ash over the lanes. Lola said the remedy was not a blade, but a memory. Gather songs the Aswang disliked, lullabies that smelled of garlic and ginger. The name of a grandmother said loud, crumbs of rice pressed into the corners of doorways, and when the night was deepest, fill a pot with water and place a mirror inside. And let the children hold up their saved laughter like a small bright thing. Creatures that steal joy cannot stand mirrors which multiply what they cannot possess. So they did. Children sang so loudly even the bats blinked. And the Aswans who came to test that village sniffed and found no hollow place to sit their teeth. Many walked on. The island learned, slowly, that its spirits and its people were shaped by the same heart. They shared gifts. The Dewata tended the river and the rice. The Tikbalang marked the roads that led merchants to exchange new songs. The taller children fed springs to thirsty clusters of homes, and the Aswang some meant as warning and some as hungry minded them what to protect. Generations later, when new names arrived with carts and bayonets and ink maps, the old stories did not vanish. They braided into the newcomer's own. The Spanish told of saints who walked on water and protector angels not unlike the traders from distant seas spoke of river mothers who turned men to fish. The same fear, a different voice. Where the islanders met these stories, they found a similarity and all comfort. people everywhere. Tell tales to explain why the rains come, why the road decides where it will go, and why laughter must be guarded like fire in the rain. On the last day of a long dry season, the river, now swollen with rain and memory, sang a loud old note. Children ran in its spray. Farmers danced upon the muddy buns of rice. Above them, the bolete trunks held the carved names of lovers and lost travelers, and if you put your ear close you could still hear the Dewata telling small truths into the water. Remember to leave an offering. Remember to say thank you. Remember the bargains the people did because the story taught them that forgetting is the slow kind of dying, and that remembering keeps a river proud and a community alive. And if you ask the river today where the first of the island's stories came from, she will only answer in fish's song and the rattle of stones. But look at any face in a crowd, the bright laugh, the wary brow, and you will see the same shapes of myth mirrored. The river woman's patience, the Tikbalung's mischief. The Aswang's warning. The island is a mirror of many islands, and each tale is a river flowing back to another. Notes on inspirations and parallels. Dewata, Inang Ilig. River spirit. Inspired by Philippine Dewatas and nature spirits He, Maria Maquilin, Anitos. Parallels. River goddesses and nymphs in Greek naiads and Slavic Rusalka traditions. Talus Springchild draws on origin child myths and foundling motifs. Parallels. Waterborne children in various cultures, for example, Celtic Selkie transformation stories. Many miracle child origin myths. Tikbalung trickster, horseman, a well-known Philippine creature that leads travelers astray. Parallels. Japanese Tengu trickster mountain spirits, European fauns, fairies, who mislead travelers, and crossroads spirits in many folklores. Aswang and protective rituals. Uses common Philippine defenses mirrors, garlic, loud songs, and the motif of protecting community through ritual. Parallels. Vampire, witch protections in European folklore and various spirit-warding rituals worldwide. Bargains with spirits and remembered names. Recurring folkloric themes agreements that must be kept. Remembering names. Rituals to reclaim what slow star found worldwide, for example, bargains with Phi in Celtic lore, names and memory in many indigenous narratives.